My biological daughter was never supposed to know. But 25 years later, a DNA test and a forgotten photograph changed everything. So I told her I am just an egg donor, and she called her mother a child snatcher. 25 years ago, my best friend Clara and her husband James were facing what felt like a devastating wall in their lives: infertility. They'd been trying to conceive for years, exhausting every medical option available to them. The hormone treatments, the doctor visits, the invasive procedures, none of it worked. I watched as Clara slowly became a shell of herself, beaten down by the physical and emotional toll of it all. I had known Clara since we were teenagers. We had stood beside each other through marriages, heartbreaks, careers, and babies. But this was the one thing I couldn't help her fix. Not at first. At the time, I had 2 children of my own, both healthy, both loved, and I knew without a doubt that I was done having more. I had no yearning left to grow my own family. I had closed that chapter. Then one day, Clara asked me something that would change all of our lives forever. She sat me down and with tears in her eyes asked if I would consider being a surrogate. But not just carrying a baby for them. She asked if I would donate my egg and carry the child using James's sperm. Essentially, she was asking if I would help them have a biological child that would also be biologically mine. I didn't say yes right away. In fact, I remember feeling stunned, almost angry at first. It was such a massive ask, even coming from someone I loved deeply. I needed time to speak with my husband, to consult doctors, to understand the psychological and legal implications, and most importantly, to ask myself if I could go through a pregnancy and hand over a baby I had created. But I kept coming back to one thing. Clara would be an incredible mother. She deserved to experience that joy. And I had the ability to give her that gift. So I said yes. The pregnancy went smoothly, medically speaking. Emotionally, it was more complicated. I had to train myself not to bond too closely, to constantly remind myself that this wasn't my child in the way my other children were. Clara attended every appointment, held my hand through morning sickness, and even moved into my guest room during the last trimester. James, always respectful, was quietly supportive in the background. Then Bella was born. She came into this world on a cool spring morning, screaming and strong, with Clara right there in the delivery room. The nurses placed Bella on my chest first, as is protocol, and then I gently passed her to Clara. It was the hardest and most beautiful thing I've ever done. Clara held her like she had been waiting her whole life for that moment. James sobbed. I did too. From day one, Bella was theirs in every practical sense. I stepped back into the role of auntie, a close family friend, nothing more. I visited during holidays and birthdays. I watched her grow up from a distance, her first steps, her first school recital, her high school graduation. I cheered from the sidelines. And it was enough. At least, that's what I told myself. My own children knew the truth. I didn't hide it from them. They understood the unique way their half-sister had come into the world, and they respected the boundary that we were never to tell Bella. Clara and James had made it clear they wanted to wait until the right time, whatever that meant. But as the years passed, that right time never came. A few weeks ago, Bella, now in her mid-20s and recently engaged, was spending time with her fiancé's family. They had one of those casual Sunday gatherings where everyone decided to try a popular DNA test kit, just for fun. No one expected anything earth-shattering to come from it. But when Bella got her results, she noticed something that didn't sit right. The results showed she had both Cuban and Black ancestry. That didn't align with what she believed about her family. Clara and James are both white. As far as she knew, their families were, too. Confused, she didn't confront them. Instead, she did something I never would have expected from her. She remembered the combination to her parents' safe, one Clara had shared with her years ago in case of emergencies, and she used it. She dug through documents, old letters, anything she could find that might explain the mystery. She found it. A photo of me in the hospital bed, heavily pregnant, with Clara holding my hand and tears in both our eyes. Legal documents about surrogacy. Fertility clinic records. A birth plan signed by all 3 of us. All the things we thought we had put safely away. After that day, she changed. She pulled away from Clara, first subtly, then obviously. Phone calls stopped. Sunday dinners were skipped. James was worried sick. Clara cried almost every night, completely baffled by her daughter's sudden coldness. We were at Clara and James's house the weekend before the wedding, helping with final prep, floral arrangements, table seating, little favors for the guests. The energy in the house was supposed to be joyful, celebratory. But there was this quiet tension in the air that none of us knew how to name. Bella had been unusually quiet all morning, helping mechanically, barely speaking to anyone unless she had to. At one point, Clara and I were in the kitchen alone. We were talking about my kids. My son was just promoted at work, and my daughter had recently moved to a new city with her husband. Clara smiled and said, "You did such a beautiful job raising them. You even paid for both of their weddings." I wish I could do the same for Bella, but it's been tight lately. I smiled, touched by her words, but before I could say anything, Bella walked into the kitchen. She looked right at me and, without a trace of humor, said, "Well, maybe you should pay for my wedding too. Since I'm your daughter too, right?" The room froze. Clara blinked. "What did you just say?" Bella snapped. "Don't act like you don't know. You and Dad have been lying to me my whole life. I found the papers. I found the photo. I know she's my real mother." She turned to me. "You gave your other kids everything. They got the life I was supposed to have, real birthdays, family trips, love. All I got was a lie." She pulled a folded, worn photograph from her jacket and slammed it on the counter. Me, pregnant in the hospital bed, Clara holding my hand. My breath caught in my chest. Then she stormed out, fiancé following quietly behind her. The silence she left behind was deafening. The next day Clara called, her voice thin and tired. "Please come over. Bella said she might talk if you're here." I didn't hesitate. I went. When I arrived, Clara looked like she hadn't slept all night. We sat in the living room, waiting in heavy silence. Finally, Bella walked in. She sat stiffly on the far end of the couch, arms crossed, eyes red. She spoke first. "I'm not here to scream. I just want to say what I need to say." We nodded. She told us about the DNA test, how she hadn't planned to uncover anything, how it started as a fun game with her fiancé's family. Then she noticed the ancestry results, Cuban and African heritage, which didn't make sense with the family history she knew. She said she didn't want to jump to conclusions, so she dug. When she remembered the code to her parents' safe, it felt like a compulsion. "I don't know what I was hoping to find," she said quietly. "But when I found the documents, the photo, it was like something cracked open inside me." She looked at me, eyes brimming. I always felt different. Not in a bad way exactly, but I always wondered why I didn't look like either of you. I used to joke that I was adopted, and you'd both just laugh it off. But deep down, I think a part of me knew. She turned to Clara then. "I love you. I do. You raised me. You gave me my childhood. But I also feel like you took something that was never yours to take. You took me." Clara's voice broke. "Bella, please. I never meant to take anything. You were wanted. Loved. Every day of your life. But I didn't belong." Bella shouted, then quickly caught herself. Her voice lowered. "Not fully. I always felt like I was trying to fit into a space that didn't quite match me. Now I know why. You weren't honest. None of you were. And it hurts." Then she looked at me again. "I used to look at your kids and feel jealousy. Like they had something I could never quite name. Stability. Confidence. A closeness with you that I didn't understand. And now I know it was you. You were the missing piece." I didn't know what to say. I had never imagined that by trying to give Clara the gift of motherhood, I'd be planting a quiet ache in Bella that would last decades. Bella's words were brutal, honest, wounded. She wasn't just angry, she was grieving a version of her life that never existed. Then she said something that chilled me to my core. "You may have given birth to me, but you let me grow up in a lie. And you," she turned to Clara, "you kept that lie going. So yeah, I love you. But I don't know if I can ever trust either of you again." That's when I stepped in. Bella's voice cut through the room like a whip, raw, shaking with anger and something deeper that I couldn't quite name. Pain, maybe. Loss. Clara just sat there, stunned. Her hands trembled, eyes wide with shock as her daughter, her whole world, called her a liar, a thief of someone else's life. It was like the ground shifted beneath us. None of this was supposed to happen. Bella was supposed to get married soon. We were supposed to be helping with centerpieces and floral samples, not unraveling 3 decades of trust and identity. I told Bella she needed to stop talking to Clara like that. She turned to me then, furious and red-eyed. Her lip quivered, and for a second, she looked like a little girl again. Lost, vulnerable, furious at something she couldn't control. "You're my real mother," she said, each word deliberate and sharp. Why don't you love me? I felt everything in me sink. That question knocked the breath out of my chest. I've thought of this moment over the years, wondered if the truth would ever surface, what it might look like if it did. But I never imagined it would feel this raw, this exposed. And no matter how much I had rehearsed what I might say, in that moment, everything I thought I'd prepared for melted away, and only the truth was left. I told her, as calmly and gently as I could, Bella, I was your egg donor. I carried you so Clara could be your mother. That was always the intention, always the agreement. I love you very much, but I love you like a niece, not as a daughter. She opened her mouth, but I didn't stop. I wasn't the one who stayed up all night when you had fevers. I didn't pack your school lunches, braid your hair, help you with math homework, or cry at your graduation. Clara did all of that. James did all of that. They raised you. They're your parents. Not because of biology, but because of the choices they made every single day. I never stepped in because that wasn't my role. I never saw myself as your mother because I wasn't. She stared at me in silence. Something in her seemed to shatter. Then she turned and walked out of the house again. Just like that. Slamming the door behind her. That was 3 days ago. Since then, she sent me over 20 messages. Some of them are blistering. Accusations that I abandoned her, that I let her grow up in a lie, that I lived some perfect life while she grew up confused and disconnected. Others are quiet, heartbreaking even. She tells me she's just trying to understand, that this explains things she never had words for, that she's always felt like something was off, like she didn't quite fit, and that now she finally knows why. She says she still loves Clara, but now she feels like she's been cheated out of the truth, like her entire life was decided without her input. She's asked me to meet her. Just me and her, or me, James, and her. She calls us her real parents. She says she needs to understand her origins, wants to know what I was like at her age, what my parents were like, what traits she might have inherited from me. It's like she's rebuilding her identity brick by brick, and she wants me to help lay the foundation. But I don't know if I can do that. Clara and I have been in close contact since all of this exploded. We talk nearly every night. And every night, we're just two mothers grieving in different ways. She's grieving the fracture in her relationship with her daughter, the girl she rocked to sleep and bandaged scraped knees for. I'm grieving something else entirely, the loss of peace. The unraveling of a promise I made 25 years ago, that I would carry a child, give that child to her loving parents, and step back with grace. And I did that. I honored every part of that promise. I never once tried to claim space that wasn't mine. I never injected myself into Bella's upbringing. I was auntie, and I was happy with that. That was my role, and I embraced it. I don't regret saying yes to Clara and James all those years ago. If I could go back, I would still carry Bella. I would still help my friend become a mother. I would still hand that baby over and step into the background with love in my heart and the full understanding that biology doesn't make a mother, presence does. Dedication does. The day in, day out stuff. The small, invisible sacrifices. My husband thinks I should meet Bella. That maybe if she hears everything from me, sees that I'm not the fantasy she's created in her head, it might bring her some peace. He thinks she's projecting, trying to make sense of a truth she wasn't ready for. Maybe he's right. But I don't know if I can sit across from her and say again, I'm not your mother, and watch her break in real time. Because the truth is, I do love her. Not as my daughter, but as someone I helped bring into this world, someone I watched grow from the sidelines with pride and distance. But she doesn't want an auntie. She wants someone to take responsibility for the hole she feels in her identity. And I can't fill that. Clara is Bella's mother. She was there for the birthdays, the milestones, the tears and triumphs. She was the one who stayed, who loved, who raised her. And now she's being punished for doing everything right. I hate that for her. I hate it for Bella too. I don't know where we go from here. Maybe Bella needs time. Maybe one day she'll come to see that love isn't always bound by DNA. Maybe one day she'll look at Clara again and see her mother, not her captor. And maybe one day she'll look at me and see not a missing piece, but a woman who once made a sacrifice and then let go. Until then, all I can do is wait and hope that time softens the edges of this wound. Because I never wanted to hurt her. None of us did.